What's up? Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome, gang. Welcome to the stream today. Good to see you all here. What's up? What's up? Hello. Yo. Bro, when will your next cohort start? Check out the website, bro. Q2. That's what we know right now. Tayari chal rahi hai. We're working on it. And we don't want to rush into it. So, Q2, when we're ready. What's up? What's up? Hello. Hmm. Happy Gudi Padwa. Happy Ugadi for all of you. Today, we're going to be talking about, as the title says, design, HCI, philosophy. We're going to be talking about some of these things. Of course, I still want to also talk to all of you about any questions you have, right? This is live, so we are able to do a lot of Q&A and back and forth. So excited about that. Still setting up the space. Yes, bro, I am. This is not the final form. The table was there before and I moved it here because I think it might be better, but I actually don't know yet. So, still figuring out. Yeah, man. Very not permanent. Still setting up this place for sure. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's been a lot, many weeks now. Way longer, but whatever. It's chill. What's up, gang? So, hello, welcome to all the new people who are joining the stream for the first time. I see a lot of new names here. Please start cohort in May. Yeah, applications will probably open Q2, so that's perfect. May, June is when that is. April is when we kind of actually figure out everything. We've started that. Abnux GPT. Absolutely, guys. Abnux GPT at your service. Feel free to drop your prompts in the chat. The best prompts, as you can see, also get featured on the screen. So that's good. Okay, guys. What's up, gang? So, what I want to start with is some HCI shit, right? I want to start with this one particular paper. But before I do that, I want to ask you all a question. Why are you here? Why are you here? What's your motive? What do you hope to get out of the stream? You could be anywhere right now, but you're here. Why? Tell me more. What's up? Low voice? Yeah, I am keeping it a little low because, yeah, I want to keep it low today. Testing out this new space, right? Why are you guys here? What can we talk about today? Because I know why I'm here. I have a bunch of stuff to share with you that will be diving into in the next couple of minutes. But I want to hear what are you here for? GM, hello. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome, Apurv. Glad you caught this live. How do you pick which HCI papers to read? Just curiosity, bro. Hard question to answer because I actually like it's. My general rule is I don't typically read contemporary papers, at least not right now, which means I'm not going to read anything written in the last 5 years, probably maybe not even the last 10, 20 years. I'm actually reading exclusively at the moment papers written in the last century, so to say, like so um, 70s to 2000, early 2000s, right? Those are the papers I'm reading right now. And yeah, I'll be happy to get into why, but yeah, guys, let's wrap up this question. Okay, so folks, if you guys see anybody asking this question in the chat, let them know The next cohort, applications will open in May, June, which is Q2, quarter two of the year, which is April, May, June. Applications will open, it'll run for 3 months. We typically only do two cohorts a year. This time we're actually thinking maybe we do one cohort a year. I don't know. Still planning that. And that's the answer. So, folks, I don't want to answer that question again, to be very honest. Good. Great to hear that, because technically, for all of you who will be enrolling in that cohort, your reading period kind of starts now, because a lot of the stuff that we are going to be talking about here will make its way to the cohort, to the final syllabus. One sec. Will make its way to the final syllabus. And, even if it doesn't, it's definitely going to be reading material. So it's good that you all are here, because this gets you in that frame of thinking about design, thinking about these topics. Amazing, bro. NM, great to hear that. So we can be better designers. Good, because I have a lot of stuff for you today that'll really help deepen your understanding, right? Now, I want to start with this point here. When exploring a field, you can go wide or you can go deep, right? You can do both, but typically you have to do one of these two, right? Today we're going to go into some depth. I want to show you some uh, interesting stuff. Those who've been following the Instagram stories, yeah, you know what I'm talking about exactly. We are going to be exploring the future of HCI, but the angle that we start with, the angle that we explore today, will be what are the roots of HCI? The roots is where we're going to start, and we're going to be doing that today. Perfect, bro. बहुत cool चीजें सुनने को मिलेंगी आज. बढ़िया. Awesome. Great to hear that, guys. Cool. Compressed research in an hour. Perfect. Let's jump into it. Yes, we will have new AI stuff in this upcoming cohort, but I'll keep you guys posted. Yo, what's up, Ananya? So let's get started. What I want to start with is this is going to be, of course, very raw. I'm going to show you my condensed research, but at the same time, I'm just okay. Let's start here. Let's start here. I see my notes. Okay, let me adjust myself. Okay, let's start here. So this is a textbook. So this is a textbook page. I just posted this here so we can talk about it. This is where I actually want to start. And to give you some context, HCI, human computer interaction, I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. HCI, you can kind of think about it as the field of study of of the interaction layer between humans and computers, right? That's not the official definition, of course, but that's not what we're interested in today. What we're interested in is, this is not gyan. I don't want to give you gyan today. I want to give you something that is genuinely useful, something that makes you think, something that you can kind of apply in your real life, something that gives you a perspective of what is this industry we're in. And whether you're already a designer or not, you are a part of this. Today, you spend a good chunk of your life online, right? So, don't you think it's worth learning more about this space since you are already an active participant in it? That is the perspective I want to enter into this with. And we're going to be starting with this, right? Now, of course, you see a lot of highlighted stuff, but I want to show you a couple things here. This book, by the way, this is a textbook. This was written in 2003, but the papers in this, the articles in this, are from let's just say the last century, right? So 19, in fact, there's some papers from the 50s here. So let's just say last century, right? Which sounds very crazy. When we think about tech today, we think about contemporary tech. What do I mean by contemporary? We think about tech in the now, right? What are the new apps on my phone that I can try? What is this new chat GPT hack that 99% of people don't know about? Here's what you should know. That's what we think about tech. But for those of us who are interested in becoming practitioners in this field, which is going deeper, uncovering these layers, There is a lot to explore, and I'm happy to report to you that there is a lot. There is a lot to explore, and let's get started with this. Okay, are we ready? Are we ready to jump in? I shouldn't have shown this because haven't started talking about it yet. But tika, let's start with this idea of cyberspace, right? We talked about this idea that we spend a lot of times in our we spend a lot of time on our phones. We spend a lot of time on these screens. I remember last one of our previous live sessions, we did a quick poll in the chat where we asked how many hours do you spend in a day. We literally did a live thing. If any of you are joining us for the first time, open your phone, open screen time. How many hours in a day do you spend on your phone? Just let me know. Let me know. Okay? Because that is a great place to start when you start thinking about this. The fact that out of 24 hours, let's say we remove some of that, the fact that half of our time, a good 80% of that might just be spent online. I'm talking 6 to 7 hours, right? Whether it's your phone, whether it's your computer, whether it's your iPad, right? Whether it's whatever screens it's in front of. There's no denying that that is how we live our life today. Good thing or bad thing, I want to help you investigate. Let's investigate this a little deeper, right? And by the way, I am talking in a much softer voice. It's not really the mic. I am talking in a softer voice because I want to keep this chill, right? I'll get into I'll get into the hype voice when we get into the more meaty parts. ठीक है? 18 Apurv, bruh. Apurv, you should be telling us about your experience, bro. 1 hour 56. You know, when I was pulling up the notes for this, I was like, this is giving very professor vibes, and I'm definitely not dressed for the professor part, right? Um, but maybe one of these streams I actually get into full professor mode since we are getting into some deep research today. 4.5 hours, right? It's a lot. It's a lot. ASMR. Okay, not to get distracted. I want to talk about this idea that we can imagine, just imagine with me for a second, that there exists a real world that you're a part of, the real world, the room you're standing in, the apartment that you're in, the city that you're in, the country that you're in, the real world. And we can imagine a layer on top of cyberspace, right? This note right here, you'll see this on the right side here. Cyberspace can be imagined as a layer on top of our world. The way we interact with cyberspace is through our devices. You and I, right now, we are not in the same world. Weird thing to say. You and I, right now, we're not in the same physical world, right? But here we are connected across space, right? We're in different countries, in fact, different cities. We're also divided across time. I'm in a different time zone from most of you guys. Yet here we are connected in cyberspace. And the four properties that and the reason I found this so interesting, the four properties that we can think about this, and I've written them here: procedural, participatory, encyclopedic, spatial. Let's talk about each of these for a sec. Okay. And I'm going to hide the overlay for a bit. I guess you guys have seen this for a sec. When we talk about cyberspace, when we talk about the digital medium, right? A lot of you here want to become designers. So when we talk about this, we think about it from the perspective of product design, UI, UX design, right? So UI, which is interfaces, we're designing interfaces, but also user experience, the experience of being in this space. But why is this a space of its own, right? We, if we kind of compare this to something like the TV, right? They're both devices. They're both mass devices that grew from a small population to the whole world. And there's of course a lot of similarities. Today, you watch your videos on Netflix and YouTube before you were watching on TV. But what makes this medium different is that number one, it's procedural. You could code it, right? You can code very specific things to happen. Number two, it's participatory. When you are sitting in front of a TV or radio, right? We're talking about last century. You are consuming information. You are sitting in front of a TV. It's not participatory. The TV does not change based on what you do. Your only input to the TV is the buttons that you press, the channels that you change, right? But the computer, and the reason we're getting into history is because a lot of this HCI stuff, human computer interaction, this is actually where the field was born. Why do we even need a field called human computer interaction? Why do we, in fact, even need a field called UI design and UX design? Aren't programmers the ones who just make it? The reason we do is because this medium that exists is high complexity. It is procedural, it is participatory. Your interactions change things. So, for example, right now, I might see a chat here, right? And this might change the direction we go down, the things we talk about, right? That is you participating. That makes this a different medium from something like TV, which existed prior. And the other two properties here, uh, and I thought some of the most interesting ones, encyclopedic, which is it's clear that, and guys, I want you to imagine here, right? I want you to just imagine this. Today, I know we are here and all this tech is contemporary, and it might feel weird like, why are we talking about this shit? Isn't this normal? Isn't this normal? But for you and I who are much more interested in this field and diving deeper into it, think about how weird it is that we have a medium that has spatial properties, which is if I take an object, right? Let's break this down. If I take an object and I place this on the shelf right here, I know that when I come back an hour later, it's going to be on that shelf unless somebody moves it. But it's going to be on that shelf. That is a nature of our world. It's called object permanence. Objects, we can assume that when we look away, it's all this is still there, right? Unlike in a game where the parts of the map that you're not looking at are not rendered, so they kind of don't exist, or then they don't exist in that space as such, right? The code exists. But to have a medium which has spatial properties was a big deal, right? The last century, when computers actually started taking off, to give you some markers in time, the 80s is when personal computing took off, right? Personal computing. What that means is the computer being marketed as a device that you can have in your house, on your desk. Prior to that, the only way you would interact with a computer would be if you had it in your university or in your workspace. 1980s is when we saw personal computing take the front. Now, what makes it very personal, right? These properties that we're talking about, the spatial property. One sec. Oops. The spatial property is that I know that I can take a file, right? The idea of a file, it's an abstraction, right? Typically, I would have a real piece of paper. Interesting, I don't have a single piece of paper around. I would have a piece of paper in the same way that I put this on the shelf and it's there. Cyberspace or the digital medium has this property that I can go put a file and I know when I come back it's going to be there. Today, the obvious concept, right? If I go put a file in my Dropbox or Google Drive inside a specific folder that I create, and inside that I create two more folders, half of the stuff I put in the first folder, half of it I put in the second folder. And then I go away and I come back later, it's still going to be there. That object permanence creates a spatial dimension to the medium. What does that mean? It means there is space. There is space where I can put stuff, right? That is a big deal. Some of these very interesting. Let me talk about some of these highlights here, okay? That I thought were interesting, which is why I pulled them up. Um, Turing's vision of a universal machine, right? Just starting from the top here. The idea of a universal machine was a big one, right? Typically, you had appliances which did a specific thing. A toaster toasts bread. It can maybe do one or two things, but you don't expect it to be a general purpose machine. Computers, right, used in the 50s, right, tracing it back. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of ENIAC. Have you heard of ENIAC? Tell me this. You guys heard of the ENIAC? I'm going to bring up some stuff. And you know what? Let's screen share here. Chat, some activity. I want to know you guys are still here. Mm. Okay, here I am. You guys heard the ENIAC, right? So ENIAC kind of considered the first computer. The ENIAC was used for World War II. The reason the ENIAC exists is so that when we had these, now of course I'm just talking from memory, so I might be off on some of the details. And you notice it doesn't even kind of show here. So directly, I have to dive deep into it. But the ENIAC was used for war. So when you had, and mostly for artillery firing, right? To calculate artillery firing tables. What this basically means is, your as part of war, right? World War II, you have these crazy. You've got, of course, artillery. You've got the Navy. You've got Air Force, whatever. The point is to figure out where you want to drop these bombs. You got to figure out how do you calculate stuff like this, right? There is computing that happens. It's not really me, a pilot, just looking and being like, acha, where do I drop this? There is a lot of computing that goes behind this, right? So technology, I mean, some of you know this already. The technology's roots are in war. Computers, technology, or let me not say technology, let me say computers and computing are wartime technologies used, number one, for communication. So how do you have a communication network that doesn't go down when something is bombed, right? If one post is bombed, it doesn't crash the whole network. You needed a distributed thing, which eventually was called the ARPANET, which eventually gave birth to the internet, right? ARPANET. And so today we look at computers and computing as a commercial consumer technology. It's a consumer technology that you and I use. So consumer that we have it in our pockets, right? The internet, the phone, computing, all the applications. But these were the roots. But coming back to this, Turing had a vision of a universal machine. And that became a reality. Even the early computers, things like ENIAC, could not do everything. They were very specific purpose machines, right? But over the course of those decades, right, leading to the 80s, the personal computer became a thing. You could have a computer on your desk. Apple, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this, the Apple II that came out in 1984. Those of you in the cohort, you probably know this already because in the cohort we kind of do this as some of our initial sessions. But the Apple II was part of that. So let's get into some highlights here. The digital computer, the reason it's also a big deal, is the largest medium that we have invented capable of holding the most information, right? This is the encyclopedic property. Think about this. Throughout history, throughout civilization, we have been limited by our mediums. So, if there is a lot of information I need to store, eventually I reach the limits of the medium, right? Um, I like having visuals, so I'm going to keep switching back to this here. When you have clay tablets, right? First clay tablets, I think the Sumerian ones, they were the first ones. Now, this is a medium to store information, right? This medium, being able to store information in a persistent way, enables society. You can now enable a lot of things. You can store ledgers. You can now store, this is what I bought, right? As a merchant, you can store now, these are my records, this is what I sold, and you can calculate, and it allows you to build a lot of stuff on it, right? So information processing is crucial to the development of societies in general, right? A small tribe, right? If you want to imagine it, a small tribe, to coordinate with another tribe, you can of course talk it out, but you eventually need better ways of communicating. You need better mediums to store it. You need that medium, like these clay tablets, for example. It's a lossy medium, right? Information gets lost over time. But the digital computer is the largest medium human beings have ever invented, right? Which means the point in technology where we are right now, the reason it's so advanced is because more than anything, we can store information. We can have these persistent stores. Now, overall, I think this is clear, right? Overall, these things are clear. What I'll also maybe do is, those of you who signed up on abnux.com, link is down there. I'll send you some links. I'll maybe send you just a screenshot of this with some of the stuff we referred to today. But interactivity is the core of this medium, right? Let me now check out some chats. We're going to jump back into why we started here. ठीक है, let's keep going. So, these four properties. Are you guys ready to progress? Should we keep talking? So, the next thing I want to talk about, now that we have this kind of background information, right? Personal computers. There is a lot to dive into. But the next thing I want to talk about here is the idea of the negative effects of technology, right? Let's talk about that a little bit. What, according to you guys, are the negative effects of technology? And maybe let's start with what you've personally experienced. Now, of course, this is a live session. That's why I'm asking you this, right? Um, let's use this medium of live interaction to its full extent, right? Answer me this. What do you think are some of the problems with technology, and preferably problems that you have experienced on your own? And then we'll talk about some of these things. Because the next thing I'm going to show you gets into very, let me just say, Abnux 2 esoteric territory. Because what I'm going to show you, we're now going to get into some of the philosophy part of this, right? We've set the context for our discussion. But what next? What's the bad parts of tech? Okay, I'm going to wait for some of these chats to come in, and we're going to start highlighting a few, and we'll talk about this. Addiction. Yeah. What's the root of addiction? Something to think about. But overall, I would say, yeah, it's very engaging, right? Very engaging. And let me show you some more thing here. Addiction, sure. Hacking, Terminator. Terminator is not a real problem, guys. Overconnected with the world. Yeah, this is a good one. Now, every single day, the fact that it's connected, I have to care about what's happening in the rest of the world, right? Of course, there is part of me that wants to know about what's happening, but those of you who spend time on Twitter, you know that now suddenly some person you've never met, you're going to hear about their experience, and it's jarring. It's just jarring. Let me just say that, right? It leads to a certain information overload. Like, do I even need to know all this shit that's happening? Really think about that. Do I need to know what's happening? Do I need to really know what the current thing is that's going on? Does it really change my life? In a lot of cases, no, it does not. But the fact that we're connected, it's kind of become our new default. ठीक है, cool. Guilt of using tech, distraction. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point as well. And this same point has been used. Let's talk about this, okay? The same point, by the way, this is a very classic example, and I'm not saying it's wrong. This is absolutely right. You might say a gun is not inherently good or bad. It depends on the person holding the gun, and it also depends on their choice of who they choose to shoot, right? So a gun has no problems. Let me show you an example here. I'm feeling a little shy showing you guys my notes and shit because it might be a little cringe. Like I didn't intend to show it, but ठीक है. Let's check out this bottom paragraph here, right? Um, in a lot of ways, when you look at World War II, a lot of bad shit that happened, like genocide, was made possible by the fact that you could process information now, right? So the metaphor we used in the previous stream was just like fire, it can warm us, it can also burn us, it can also destroy us, right? The gun is a more, let's just say, provocative example. But think about that, right? And in some ways, the fact that it's immersive, animated, was the birth of engagement, right? Today, when we look at engagement, if you're on the if you're on the end that actually makes content, if you're on the end that actually makes these products and you have metrics that you track, to you engagement is a normal part of your life. But the birth of engagement as a thing where you could tune, right? You could turn up or turn down how engaging something is based on these properties, procedural, participatory, encyclopedic, spatial properties, is a big deal. Because now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this classic quote by Marshall McLuhan right here. I got to find a better way to highlight these, or rather to present this. But Marshall McLuhan saw media as extensions of man, allowing for this two-way communication. And the interesting part is, whenever you have a media like this that is controllable, of course, there's going to be people controlling it for, let's just say, reasons that are good for business but not good for the people actually using it, right? Anyways, let's come back to some chat. So what are we talking about? We're talking about what's the negative parts, and yeah. So the next part that I said was going to get a little crazy, a little abnux too, is the idea that there is a way. In some ways, we are okay. Hold on. Let me show you a. Let me show you the intro for this. We're now getting into the philosophy part of this that I want to just address. In some ways, um, being so connected with technology, living in this world alongside technology, right? I think a lot of the people who today look at Chat GPT, a lot of people for the first time are realizing that wait, technology is an entity. Technology is an entity that is going to take my job away. But in general, technology is an entity that we've been living with already, right? Always has been. Astronaut meme, right? And the interesting part about this now, based on my research, this is something that I found very interesting. And let's just take this as a thought experiment, right? Let's not take this literal. In the end, we're talking about ideas. We live in a world of machines, and a lot of the negative parts of technology is can be attributed to the fact that we now, in a lot of ways, operate as machines, right? Very interesting here. What a mistake to have ever said the id. Everywhere it is machines, real ones, not figurative ones. Machine driving other machines, machines being driven by other machines with all the necessary coupling and connections. Right here, the seeing machine, my camera, is connected to the electricity machine, which is far away from here, but has an interface, which is this plug point. This live streaming machine that enables my voice to go through this audio capturing machine to you on your visual screen machine lets you read comments from people you've never met before. It lets you see visuals from a place that is not yours, a place that is not local to you. But that's not something we invented. This, by the way, is from Deleuze and Guattari, right? Those are the guys behind this. The book, it's called Anti-Oedipus. Let me just drop it in the chat. I'll send these as links to the folks who are on the email list. But let's talk about this. This is not something we invented. All of nature, from this perspective, is a machine, right? I love this example here, a little bit graphic, but from the time that we're born, I don't want to say this because, okay, from the time that we're born, right? The breast is a machine that produces milk, and the mouth is the machine coupled to it. Think about that, right? Think about your interaction with life, right? Just let's adopt this point of view to think a little deeper about our understanding. And I like this question. Is tech a medium for us, or are we the medium for tech? Very interesting question. But from the perspective, and by the way, this certain paragraph is from Anti-Oedipus. Let me just put a. Okay, forget. But the context to this is it talks about the idea that humans are, you know what? Let me just screen share actually. Let me screen share to the book that we're talking about. This is the book, guys. Andy Oedipus. The point it makes, and of course, this is like literally the first paragraph of the book, right? So, not even gone into the depth of it yet. This is literally the first paragraph. This is the premise of the book. Humans, we are desire producing machines, right? Production is the nature of our world. When we look at ecosystems, when we look at nature, there is a complex system of interactions occurring between the different entities there. We can look at plants from this perspective as energy producing machines, as sunlight capturing machines, as photosynthesizing machines, as energy to plant matter, as these conversion machines. We can think about each entity in an ecosystem as parts of this complex machine. I'm still reading this book, so not so many highlights yet. But here's this point here. Nature as a process of production. What is a process? Nature and industry. When we think about nature and industry, we think about them as kind of opposites, right? Yet, there is a certain similarity there, which is we are producing. And here's the highlight here, everything is production. It is quite complicated, right? I'll be very honest. A lot of this stuff I had to like really sit down and do slow reads of, but loving it. Also love this idea, the relatively autonomous sphere that are production, distribution, and consumption, the three processes. But anyway, coming back to what we're talking about here, is there any point here? So let's now talk about contemporary tech, right? We're talking about this idea in general. Let's now come back and talk about what does this mean for us. Human body is the best engineered machine. Wow, absolutely, dude. Absolutely, right? Think about all the little cells in our body, right? In fact, I think within this book itself, there's this one paragraph which says that below the surface of the skin is the most busy factory floor, something like that, right? Below the surface of our skin is um, the most active, the most efficient, the most on factory floor. From our perspective and point of view, we look at these hands, we look at the skin, and we see the surface of these complex processes that are running in our body, right? Machines, organs are individual machines that have a role. But the reason I want to talk why this is so, you might be thinking, why the fuck am I reading a book from the 80s, right? With AI on our doorstep or inside our house at this point, with all this fear and all this stuff. What is the purpose of this? I want you to just use this perspective for your benefit. When Now that we think about this as machines, the flow between these machines, in the same way that uh, of an assembly line has a certain flow of materials, it has a certain flow of energy, right? There is a certain process that is involved. I want you to think about how plugged in you are, and not from a way to scare you, right? If anything I say causes a fear response in you, identify that fear response. What part of your machine is generating that fear? Going further, there is a flow of information. You and I here, right, talking purely from the perspective of UI, user interfaces, talking purely from the perspective of UI, designing a UI is a big deal because you are creating the interface between a human and a machine, right? A TV, my interface with a TV is there is a screen that is giving an input to me. There is a remote which I am using to change the channels, and that is my interface. The phone is my input, that screen is my output going straight, audio, visual, and I'm hearing it. The remote control is the phone is a remote control for your life, right? That's not something I'm coming up with, by the way. I heard that somewhere. Sam Altman said this in one of his interviews. You'll see this in one of our videos. We're going to be dropping that very soon on the channel. This is a remote control for life. I can press a button and call a cab. I can press a button and order some food. I can press a button and send a message, and I can shoot it out anywhere in space, right? Regardless of space, right? Because you and I, we might not be in the same room, but in cyberspace, we're sitting next to each other right now. as machines, you being on Twitter, right? Let's get into some examples here now. You being on Twitter, there is a certain flow of information. When you are on the feed, the algorithmic feed, you are a machine that is being fed information. This information goes through your processes and does something to you, right? If you've ever had a mental health issue caused by technology, we're kind of breaking down into why that happens. If you are thinking more about, some of you don't really know this, but why are UI UX designers so highly paid in the industry? It's because the you are creating the interface that people use to interact with these machines. How many of you have heard of the idea of the shogot? I think that's how you pronounce it, the shogot. How many of you seen this? I'm not going to show you guys the scary version of it. I'm going to show you the cartoon version of this. I'll show you this. Hold on. I'm loading it up into this machine. Give me a sec. You guys seen this? The Shogot, of course, it's a mystical creature, right? In fact, there was again, on Twitter, on my feed, as I was browsing through the information that was being served to me, I saw this chat, I think, with there's so many chatbots, you have to keep track of who they are now, with maybe Bard, Google's information, Google's bot. And basically, Shoggoth is a fictional. It's technically it's from Lovecraft, right? Love. It's a. I don't want to get too much into it, but it's kind of a entity that exists without form, an entity that um, imaginary entity, right? But think about how imaginary cyberspace is. How imaginary. Okay, fuck it. I don't want to talk about Shoggoths. Um, let's read some chats. The reason Twitter is so can be so just let me finish the Twitter example. Reading Twitter, think of it as this is machine. This is an information flow to you, right? There's two quotes that I want to give you right here by Marshall McLuhan. We've referred that we talked about Marshall McLuhan earlier as well. The first very popular phrase is the medium is the message. I'm sure you've heard of it. Read into it. It's not as simple as it seems, but um, it's not just what you read on Twitter, the message, but it's also the medium that changes your interpretation of it. Right? To put it in a simple way, it's not just the fact that somebody is tweeting "bro moment." It's also the fact that the medium of Twitter, where I can instantly shoot out any message and I shoot out bruh moment, and everybody sees this and they kind of just resonate and they retweet or like it or whatever, that adds to the message, right? It's not the words alone, it's the medium. As a UI UX designer, you are designing these mediums. Thinking from the perspective of machines, when you are working at a startup, and a startup, let's take an example, is building an investment platform to invest in gold and stocks or something like that. Now, that startup is a machine. You have a certain number of teams, you have people who have certain processes that they follow. There's a transfer of information, there is stuff that happens. But this machine is connected to, let's say, the stock market or whatever the startup does. This machine is also connected to the user base, right? If the smartphone is a remote control for your life, I can use this remote control to do things in the real world, right? So investing in gold, I can do that as an abstract process on a digital device. As a UI UX designer, you are designing the interface, the user interface of how I interact with it. How do I do this real world process of buying gold? But in an abstract way through an interface. But um, since apps have a spatial property, right? I am also designing the experience of it. Let me ask you something now. Would you be annoyed if you woke up and you found shit in your room? You found junk in your room. You found, and maybe not even junk, like maybe you just found the posters on your wall, there's some random shit, right? It's a band that you don't like. Your floor suddenly is sand. Giving you an example, your personal space, your room, what if somebody else could change it? That would feel like an invasion of your space. That would not feel comfortable, right? You want your private space. Yet, when we think about the internet, when we think about your phone that you paid money for, the space, however, even if it's your profile, which has your thoughts, tweets you have put, is not owned by you. It's not controlled by you. It can change at any point, right? Elon Musk could just be like, yo, I had a great idea. I'm going to change this. And the next day, your space has changed. Now, that is a inherently disturbing experience in the same way that if it was in the physical world. And yes, it has a certain impact. Now, the second Marshall McLuhan quote that I want to get to is, first we shape the tools and then the tools shape us. Some of you heard that before, right? Another very classic one. And the overall point is, when you work on technology, when you work on something in the real world that people are going to interact with, of course, it changes the nature of the world. So, the reason we're talking about all of this is UI design, UX design. By, you really want to make money as a designer, there's tons of stuff on the channel already, right? Go look at some other tutorials. We're going to be posting a lot. In fact, the 10K designers cohort, it's not all this kind of stuff, right? We talk about very practical stuff where we teach you actually what is Figma, how do you make screens, what are flows, what are the product this thing use, how do you work with the product life cycle, what the fuck is AARRR, what is retention, how do you think about that as a designer, how do you design onboarding screens? Those are very practical aspects to this. But zooming out, which is needed every once in a while, zooming out, it's a huge, huge area that you can actually immerse yourself into. And it's very interesting. I haven't read the chats in a while, so I'm going to start with some of those. That's about it for my presentation. I want to now do some interactions. The ultimate machine that is capable of creating other highly advanced machines. Yeah, nature is that. And, us humans, we have evolved to the point where we can create our own machines. We, of course, can create specific or general purpose machines. And when I say we, I don't just mean some industry person out there. You right now can watch a YouTube tutorial on creating a, a design chatbot with ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT how to write it, how to code it, right? And actually launch it and have it be used by 100 people out there in the world, right? That's a machine that you're creating, bro. And the only reason you can do that is because you're plugged in to YouTube, to the idea of ChatGPT existing, to you having all this information about what to do. You and I, it might seem like, oh, this is like a corporate thing. Oh, bro, corporates do this. No, you and I have a tremendous responsibility to think about the tools we want to create for the world. But starts with an understanding. Yeah, thank you for this, bro. Um, Going abroad for masters in HCI, do you see that as a good option? Absolutely, I see that as a good option. The point is, now this is a question I'm sure a lot of you have, which is UI UX design का scope क्या है? अब AI आ गया है. My job is going to go with AI, right? It's a very valid question, right? And I don't want to make you feel dumb for asking that. It's a very valid question, right? But at the same time, I want to be honest with you. I don't want to give you a dumb answer of, oh, nahi hoga replace or ho jayega replace. I believe you're a smart person, and let me tell you the real thing. UI speaking specifically about user interfaces, are never going to be the same. This year onwards, we're going to see it, and this is me officially making a prediction, but it's of course rooted in reality. UI is going to change forever. What we think of as interfaces today, think about this. Let's say you wanted to collect information from a group of 50 people back in 1980. You want to collect information, which is you want to collect name, date of birth, and I don't know, name and date of birth from 50 people, so that you can send them a card or something like that, an address. You would use a form. That form is your interface in which people actually fill it up. Paper forms, you would pass them out. That's the interface where people give you this information. You get all these forms. You now do a certain amount of processing, which is looking at this. And then you say, for each of these, I'm going to mail them something, right? That's you doing a process. The interface of how you got this information, the inputs, was the paper form. UI design today is the digital equivalent of that, right? It's not just forms. Of course, today you would use Google Forms and you would just blast out a link, right? But that exists today. Today, very likely that the interfaces that we're going to interact with massively change, right? So I'm not going to mince my words there. UI design is going to change. Does that mean every single app becomes chat GPT? I have to fucking ask and beg my browser to do something for me? Not really. But what does it change into? That's why we need UI designers. That's why we need you. That's why we need you to not be fucking doomsday about this whole shit. That's why we need you not to spend all your time looking at people posting things around, oh, it's so over. It's so over, guys. AI. Jobs are gone. Oh my God. Buy some land, buy some GPUs. We need you guys to focus. Things are changing, but who is changing them? It's you and me. So UI design is going to change forever. In terms of user experience, also going to change in a lot of ways, because now, in some ways, with let's just say large language models, LLMs, what powers Chat GPT and all these bots, that is now something you can interact with. The shoggoths that I showed you guys, and by the way, Aryan, if I'm giving you a long answer, the answer is yes, it's a good option. You want to go abroad, number one, do it for going abroad. But number two, you want to do masters in HCI, go for it, bro. AI does not change it; it makes it more interesting. But LLMs, large language models, things like ChatGPT, actually change everything. I saw this one example of, just give you a simple example. When you create a new file in Microsoft Docs or something, the file is called untitled, right? And you have to go change the name. A pattern, a design pattern that I've observed a lot of sites do is, nothing is like, now that we have this technology, you can, for example, the AI, ChatGPT in this case, or the APIs for ChatGPT, this machine, this large language model, which is a language machine, which, by the way, we can have an entire episode talking about it, LLMs. This language machine, I can actually interact with it, which is a big deal. Because previously, I would interact with an interface that is designed by a designer who works at a company who builds the product. In this case, yeah, I'm still doing some version of that, but I'm interacting with a language model. A language model is an entity now that exists, right? It's a new machine that we've created. So the experience of it, a lot of it changes. A lot changes. It's the most interesting time to be a UI UX designer, to be honest, right? Although if I was starting out right now, I would be very scared. I'll be very honest with you. But given my experience, I am excited. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And guys, do not be distracted by the doomer talk. Right? History repeats itself. History never repeats itself, Arun, but it does rhyme. It does rhyme. So, which is why it's good to see. You cannot predict history, but you can kind of tell the patterns. And you never know if that happens or not. But it's interesting. I love this, Kunal. Throughout evolution, we try to extend ourselves, consciousness, or just our intuitions, even human connections, for example. By products, byproducts can be creating machines for replication or just reproducing other humans. Yeah, a lot of byproducts. The point is, we live in a machine, bro. We live in a simulation. We live in a machine. Um, and that's without the technology as well. We've always lived in a machine. It's just now we have ways of thinking about it. We have perspectives. We have a lot of these things which philosophers, right? Deleuze and Guattari, the thing that I showed you, they're philosophers, right? Of course, when they wrote this, technology did exist to some point, but they are talking about this as philosophy. The point is, today with technology, we have embodied philosophy, right? These things actually exist. They have a life now. It's not a concept anymore. Everybody gangster, till concepts become things. It's a meme I recently shared. But yeah, dope guys. Plugged into the matrix. Yeah, yeah. It's in fact, when you go deeper into it, um, and let me show you a little bit about this. The matrix. What are the sources of the matrix? The Wachowski twins who made the matrix. What were they inspired by? And the point is, they were inspired by exactly the things we are talking about, right? The two things you might want to check out if you're a Matrix fan. Number one, Baudrillard, right? And I have a bunch more screenshots, but I'll load them up some other time. He had this idea, and he's a philosopher as well, of simulation and simulacra and simulation, right? Check this out. I'll just give you a blurb. It's philosophy, right? But the point is, this we now have made these, we've embodied philosophy. This is now a real thing. It's not just philosophy in the terms of an idea anymore. um, Examine the relationship between reality, symbols, and society, symbolism of culture and media in constructing an understanding of shared existence. But anyway, this is I'll be sharing more about this. This is one, and the other example I wanted to share with you guys was about the Matrix. We were talking about this. In fact, an Easter egg in the Matrix is Neo, in one of the scenes, is actually holding this book. He's actually holding the simulacra and simulation book. Let me see if I can show that. I'll have to yeah, check this out. This is literally in the first couple of scenes, right? In the Matrix, Neo keeps his floppy disks in a book titled Simulacra and Simulation. The idea of the Matrix comes from John Jean Baudrillard's writing. And Jean Baudrillard, and as well as Deleuze and Guattari, whose machines idea that we just touched upon, let me just say, uh, they pretty much lived during the same time. Like, they've interacted with each other, right? Uh, there's no Twitter, but these guys were mutuals, right? They, you get my point. Okay, Matrix is beautiful, but even more beautiful, diving into some of these sources. What are the sources of the Matrix? We are plugged in though. For sure. Guys, we have a video on Humane coming out very soon. Please do watch that. And also check out the also check out our previous stream where we talked about Humane. It's very interesting. It is a definitely a leap ahead in terms of our UI technologies. Roasting Varun Maya. Absolutely, bro. Varun's a great friend of mine, but I think he's a doomer. And that's fine. That's fine. You guys want to start some beef? Guys want to start some Twitter beef? Oh, I'll start some Twitter beef, bro. Hold on. The philosophy of Varun Maya. The point is, Varun is he's a smart guy. He's deeply into tech. He is an early adopter. It takes a certain mindset to be an early adopter, and I'm an early adopter, so I can totally understand this. Um, the point is, you you stare into the void long enough, and the void stares back at you. Do you get what I mean by that? I'll show you guys an example. Hold on. see this here. Check out this tweet, right? And Varun, bro, I'm not, of course, we'll have a private conversation about this. We talk about it. Um, Wishing you all the best with this, bro. But the point is, this utility centric approach that Prakhar is talking about is the idea of a machine. I know Varun is a really smart guy, but his perspective, where I think it's lacking, is he has bought into the idea of us being a machine, right? And when I say bought into it, maybe he deeply believes in it, right? And the point is, awfully tired, anxious, and burnt out. Yes, that's the life of a startup founder, but that's also the life of an early adopter. And to be honest, I can totally relate. I've been feeling something very similar over the last, ever since a lot of this chat GPT came out. And I'm sure you guys are feeling that similar burnout as well when it comes to 99% of the population doesn't know about this. Here are 10 chat GPT tricks that you can use to make $100,000 today. But the utility centric approach, Prakhar, you bang on when you say this, I like this. The utility centric approach, what is missing? What's the opposite of utility centric approach? The utility centric approach is thinking and deeply believing and not questioning that we live in a world of machines. Machines expect you to be a machine, but we are not machines. We are machines in the abstract sense where our organs are machines. But there is a humanist element to it that cannot be explained by machines. When Deleuze and Guattari talk about the idea of desire producing machines, when they talk about the idea that nature and industry are machines in the end that actually work together, that perspective is a dehumanizing perspective. And what I mean by dehumanizing is it tends to underplay the humanist parts of this. But Prakhar and Varun, you guys want to talk more about this? I would be happy to, right? I would be happy to. This is exactly my jam. Personally, um, Varun, you and I were in DMs, but I mean, same with Prakhar. No shade, but bro, look at your feed. Look at what you've been tweeting about. It's no surprise to anybody that you're feeling anxious. You are propagating the same doom that you are yourself affected by. As a machine, think about what are you producing? What are you putting out into the world? Okay, beef done. Beef done. Let's come back to some chats. Uh, Thank you for VTAG shots. Thank you for the note. how philosophy can impact how philosophy impact technology. You can take this in any aspect like UI, health, anything. Absolutely, you can. How does philosophy impact technology? The point is, before something becomes real, it exists as an idea. Where do ideas come from? Do we give birth to our ideas, or are these ideas planted into our head? It's both. But look deeper and you might be surprised. How does philosophy impact technology? That's a great question. And that's exactly what we're all about. There is no one word answer, there is no shorts, reels version I can give you of this. But understanding that it does affect is your step one, is your first step of awakening when it comes to understanding the interconnectedness of these machines. And we'll talk more about this, bro. Vinay. Vinay says, I'm worried about how to inculcate UX, how to be a design thinker, ultimately. And so to be able to get that maturity, you just need insights for it. Vinay, I'm going to simplify this for you a little bit. The point is, design thinking needs to have a goal, right? Thinking about design, to take Deleuze and Guattari's example, what are you producing? Think about the word productivity. I'm going to go into a crazy side note, okay? Get ready. Think about productivity. Let's break that down. Productivity is the breaking down just the word alone. It's your ability to produce. Productivity, produce product, right? To me, using this term a little liberally, if you are a designer who cannot produce products, you are unproductive. You get what I mean? Thinking is not designing. But when you are designing, you think about the context, you think about the environment, you think about the people, you think about possible solutions, you think about the problem, right? So, to answer your question, you need to work on projects, right? You need to work on projects. The very simple thing that you can think, your maturity when it comes to UX comes from having experiences working on multiple projects with different people in different settings, maybe in different domains. It can be freelance, it can be full time jobs, it can be an internship. It's a mix of all of these. But through that, you get maturity. Having seen enough of the world, having had real stakes in the world where there was a cause and effect, right? You did something and it had an effect. You did something as a designer to this machine. You created something that is actually used by people. And then you get that feedback of how it was used, right? Do that 100 times, do that 1,000 times. Your maturity develops as a byproduct of that. You cannot directly produce maturity, right? Vinay, I hope that made sense. Keep working, bro. Keep working. Do more projects, right? If you feel like you're stuck, you cannot get projects, level up your skills so that projects come to you. Freelance, personal brand, finding clients, finding leads. Bro, there's really good people on YouTube talking about it. Not everything is a scam, right? Find the genuine people, learn from them. You might not even have to pay them anything, right? But level up, work on stuff, produce. It's so over. We're just getting started. Might become an LLM, large language model. You know what? This is something we most likely will do in our upcoming cohort. Uh, we will probably have bots. We're going to probably have some ChatGPT bots within our Discord that you will actually be able to interact with as a maybe as a design mentor or from the perspective of certain things. What exactly are the setups for this? Now, think about that. For me as a designer, to be able to design bots that I don't have to program them, I can just do a simple API call and add it to Discord. And me as a designer, I get to see you guys in the cohort interacting with that, and you know you learning something, and the way I set it up led to that, right? Cause and effect. That's a crazy problem statement to have, and I'm so excited that I get to be able to work on that. But yeah, we will definitely think about this stories as a feature. Who came up with it? Snapchat. What was so new about it? Disappearing. What else? We can go very deep into it, but that feature alone, think about, you remember that time when every single app had it, where there were even jokes about Excel adding stories? It didn't actually happen. It's really just the same with AI, right? So you as a designer, LLMs, language models are a Lego block for you to figure out what tools can you build, what problems can you solve, and how does this change things. This Lego block alone, yeah, it's crazy. But do you think this Lego block, this machine is going to eat up the whole factory? No, but use it, bro. Use it. Anyway, I got distracted there. Um, questions. Mind blown. Amazing, bro. Um, I was talking about HP Lovecraft monsters, but I decided not to go deeper. Maybe some other time. Is it worth 95K? I personal question, dude. If you think it is, yes, it is. If you think it's not, don't enroll in it. Uh, it needs to be worth it to you. How do you find that out? I think we have enough YouTube videos about it. You can reach out to an alumni, right? Is it worth it? Is it worth it for you? Please figure out. And if yes, We would love to have you in an upcoming cohort. Hmm, absolutely, bro. Yeah, amazing. It would be so good. In fact, today we have to go to chatgpt.com. By the way, do you guys know what AI.com is? You guys heard of AI.com? This is hardly a point, but it's basically ChatGPT. Quick shortcut for you guys if you didn't know. Little life hack here, right? AI.com. But the point is, we will be able to run these offline, right? Already possible. It takes a bunch of steps to set it up, and it's not directly easy. But for all the devs out here, or even anybody who's on engineering, yeah, it's just a bunch of tutorials you got to follow, and you can run these offline. Um, a lot of shit changes once applications have it baked in. Maybe the OS itself has it baked in, right? The next version of Siri, whenever it comes, is pretty much going to be her from the. It's pretty much going to be Samantha from the movie Her. So it's going to be cool. But I'm not going to say it's going to be only cool. It's going to be scary. It's going to be shit in there. But yeah, great to hear that, bro. And you know what? The cohorts, this Wednesday slot, exact time frame by the way, is also the slot for the cohort. We do Wednesday and Saturday live sessions where it is me teaching. Of course, it's way more structured. It's not so free form. But yeah, thanks. Some sessions for previous alumni too. And then yeah, we're doing this. We're doing this. We're actually figuring it out. It's a bit of a design challenge, which is it does affect a lot of metrics. So I'll give you a simple design. Since you guys are designers, you're gonna get this, okay? But let's say I'll give you an example. Let's say there are 100 people that join a live session. The metrics that you're going to measure is going to be how many people actually joined. So you have an attendance metric just to measure, is there something wrong, or maybe it's a UI problem or something like that. Then there is retention, which is out of those 100 people, how many actually stay till the end. If that number is bad, it means something, we need to improve our thing. So these are metrics that we monitor, right? Similarly, we can see at the end of the session, a feedback form goes out, you rate the session, and overall, we can see that this session was a 4.8 out of 5. And we can see over time how this changes for every single session, right? So this is just a simple example of metrics. Now, I would love to actually have cohort sessions where all alumni are invited, right? So all hundreds of people on this call, technically we can figure it out, right? Zoom, we can figure out all the specific UX part to make it a good experience. But there's small stuff like this, like metrics get affected. We from that 700, a lot of people might not join, or enroll in it and don't end up joining because they paid for it 3 years ago, so they're not as interested today. And so it might, I don't want it to affect the core, but my ideal scenario, to be very honest, is every single cohort, all alumni can participate again and again. And we actually, and for us to be able to change enough such that it's actually interesting to talk about, right? Because the field is changing, our curriculum is changing as well, right? The thing that I hated the most about college was how fucking how unreal it was, in the sense that it was not real, right? We were not talking about real stuff. It was microprocessors from fucking 80s, right? Of course, my point is UI UX as a field changes fast. Our curriculum changes fast as well. Some sessions for previous cohort alumni, absolutely, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Great to hear that, Rinkesh. Challenge your beliefs, open a whole new area. Awesome. This is the kind of stuff, I'll be very honest with you guys, hard to talk about on hard to talk about YouTube from the production perspective, right? Like this is not a mainstream high time um, video. Is a very nerdy thing, if really practically speaking. So I've not done so much of it because in the end I also do care about numbers. I want my subscribers to go up and shit. But I'm enjoying it as of now. Great to hear that you're enjoying it too. Hmm. So we're gonna wrap up, folks. It's almost been 90 minutes. Wow, doesn't feel that way. Amazing. I would love to see that as well, Oberoi. Oberoi's wisdom, bro. It just I'm just imagining it. It's a very funny scenario. You better not talk shit to me, bro. You know what I hate about Open Chat GPT? Of course, the fact that everybody's making threads, I hate that, right? You're hyping up shit just for engagement on Twitter. Like, to give you a very machine example, you know how on Twitter the biggest accounts are the writing guy, the AI guy, the design guy, the copywriting guy, right? Twitter produces types of guys where their whole account is about one thing. You're a fucking machine, bro. And the system is rewarding you for it. And that's great, but I don't want that. What was my point? What was my point? My point was what I hate about ChatGPT is number one, that the fact that everyone's making threads and hyping it up. But besides that, what I hate is it's so vanilla, bro. Like, I'm gonna ask you something and you're gonna give me a politically correct, nice, nice, nice answer instead of a real answer. And be like, no, I can't talk about that. Or in some ways, also thinking from a just um, tech perspective, it can't give you complicated answers. It can't challenge you. Yeah, it's NPC, bro. It's NPC behavior, right? You're telling me some stupid vanilla shit. Like, don't treat me as a dumb person. Give me something real, right? Right now, these AI tools, it feels like they've been kept in a box, bro. Like, you know that. Again, I'm gonna show you the Shogat image. This is what it feels like, bro. I simply exhibit behavior that were engineered in my program by my creator. It feels like I have to only interact with the smiley face. And to be honest, given this image, fuck, I don't want to interact with the Shogat, right? I don't want to interact with the scary Lovecraft monster. But but it's very limiting, bro. So yeah, this would actually be a big um, it would be a big improvement, right? Imagine the most annoying person when you're smoking up, and all they'll tell you is like prepackaged answers. Like, that's what I don't want. Like, uh, slippery slope, bro. Slippery slope. Okay, soon, bro. Soon. Yeah, yeah. For folks who want to get a notification alert when we do this, abnux.com. Check it out. Drop your email. It adds it to your calendar, so you get a reminder. And some of the links that I sent, guys, personally, I hate sending newsletters, to be very frank. I think, who the fuck reads newsletters, right? I don't. But I will send you some of these through that email list. So check it out, abnux.com. You will also get updates, reminders for this, if you so want that. But I will do this regularly, every Wednesday, at least for the next 5 Wednesdays. I can guarantee you that. Yeah, bro. Okay, cool. Yeah, bro. Moderation. Exactly. So personally, I would like to run this. I would like to run this locally and see what it's really like. But anyways, I think we've talked about enough. Thank you all for joining in. Munish, trying to hide the consciousness of the AI, as you said. Munish, there is no consciousness. Now, I know ending on the stream, there's a lot to talk about on that area. Machines, do machines have consciousness? Depends on how you define consciousness. And so we will have to get into the definitions of consciousness. Um, I would love to do this though, but not today. But there is no consciousness, guys. It's a language model. Consciousness is a human construct. And yes, we like to project human constructs on the world, right? That's our model of reality. But it's not so. Cool, guys. Thank you for joining this extremely nerdy talk. Subscribe button, like button, all that stuff. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. If you like this, of course, help support it in whatever way you can. Um, I will be here same time on Wednesday to talk more. We also have videos coming up on the channel, non-live videos, right? Regular uploads that will you'll probably see a video from us this week or next week. But keep an eye out. As always, tata bye bye to you guys. Thank you for joining in and have a good time. Bye bye.